Hey Marshmallow Peeps, what's up? Today I want to talk about the 1988 version of The Blob. There's The Blob right there. I recently picked this up for $1 at my local flea market, which I was astounded by that price. Really happy to get this because I love this movie. I really, really love this film. When I was a kid, I remember my dad was a really big fan of like creature feature movies that he had grown up with as a kid. So the first time I saw The Blob was actually the original 1958 version with Steve McQueen. I thought it was okay. My dad loved it. He loved it. But I thought it was okay. My problem was that if you've ever seen the original, it's not bad, but it's very 1950s. Like there's a doo-wop song that starts the movie about the blob, and everybody in the movie is it's very 1950s kind of a feel to it. And for me personally, as a teenager watching it, I just couldn't, in the 80s, I couldn't like relate to that. I thought most of the time I laughed because I thought a lot of it was kind of goofy and silly with how people were talking and acting, and it was just, to me, it was just really so distant from what I was doing and how I was growing up and the kids at my age that it just made me laugh more than anything. I think it's an entertaining film, but it's kind of silly. I really think it's kind of goofy. But when when this version came out, oh, I loved it. I loved it. I was 16 years old, and the thing with remakes with me is remakes are funny because sometimes movies get remade and I just wonder, why did they remake this? But there are a couple of exceptions to that rule, a couple of times where a movie is remade and I think it's justified and it makes sense, and The Blob is one of those films. I really think this is a film that needed an update. This version is much more of a sci-fi horror kind of film. It is funny though, it has some comic stuff in it, but great characters. If you're not familiar with the story of The Blob, a meteor comes down to Earth, and inside that meteor is this blob of goo. And this goo, like, comes out of the meteor, attacks this old man, and just starts basically going through this town and devouring anybody it comes across. And the more it eats, the bigger it gets. And it's an excellent film. One of the things I loved about it was that the setting is very familiar to me. It's a very small town. Everybody in town life revolves around high school football. That's the big deal. That's a lot like the town I grew up in. It just has a very small town, all America kind of feel to it, and just having this giant blob come in and start terrorizing the town, it's just very entertaining. Uh, it's directed by Chuck Russell, who went on to direct such films as The Mask with Jim Carrey and Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Co-written by Frank Darabont, who went on to do Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, and create and have a really big hand in creating the Walking Dead series. So just a great film all over. The effects are amazing. There's a lot of kills in this movie that are really inventive. There's one kill in particular where a guy gets sucked down a drain in a kitchen, and just the sound effects used in that sequence, how bloody it is. It's just really, to me, that scene always struck me as being really painful. Like I said, excellent cast in this film. Uh, I was 16 when this came out, and Shawnee Smith was in it, and she plays this cheerleader named Meg, and man, I had a huge crush on her. I was like, oh, she is so beautiful. Kevin Dillon's in it. He's sort of the juvenile delinquent, the badass kid in the town that's always up to no good, and he's He's funny. There's some cheesy parts in the movie, but they're done so well. It's just an excellent movie. Joe Seneca's in it. You may remember him as the old blues man from the excellent 80s film Crossroads. And just like I said, the Blob, Candy Clark. Candy Clark's in there too. She's excellent as the waitress. I don't know. I've always liked Candy Clark ever since I first saw American Graffiti. Something about her. Anyway, like I said, excellent effects, excellent sort of feel to it. It's got a really great feeling to it. I really love this movie. If I was picking like my top 10 favorite 80s movies or my top 10 favorite sci-fi horror movies, The Blob's definitely in it. Definitely in that list. So this is one of those instances where I think the remake's better than the original. So, what do you guys think? Have you seen The Blob? What did you think? Let me know in the comments. And as always, everybody, see you again, and thanks.